We are here with Mike.
And Freddie.
Yeah.
Today, I'm talking about how many panels per page. Experienced comic book writers know this through years of practice and sometimes intuitively. But when you're just starting out, it's a conundrum. How many panels per page? Well, a comic has a pulse and a rhythm, just like a song. And a lot of that is determined by the number of panels you use per page. When you see a page with 10 or more panels, sometimes it's used to impart information when there's a lot of talk going on, but sometimes it's just used to create a silent movie effect as we follow the protagonist from scene to scene and see what he's doing. Way back in the 60s, Marvel used to have 9 panels per page. They squeezed a lot of story in. And the art was sometimes great, as with Jack Kirby, but sometimes it was quite humdrum. But in the 70s, there was a huge sea change in the art, and artists began entering the field whose art was spectacular and deserved a wider canvas. I'm talking about people like Barry Windsor Smith, Bernie Wrightson, Jim Starlin. Their images themselves were startling, and you wanted to pause and admire that image, because one of the reasons that people love comics as an art form is the aesthetic of the individual artists. Sure, the story is important and the story should be great, but we all know that a great story with bad art isn't going to get as much attention as a bad story with great art. And we've all bought comics by artists we love where we wish the story could have been better, but we treasure the images that they've given us so much that they become highly desired collector's items. When I started writing, I had no reservations about doing 7 panels per page, and as I've mentioned before, I wrote by drawing each page out by hand, complete with all word balloons and captions, and it's an exercise I would encourage everyone to do, whether they can write or not. But as I went on and I studied contemporary comics, I noticed that the panels per page began to shrink. And this doesn't mean they were telling less story, except in some cases. We all know that the big two have published egregiously padded stories to stretch out a story that could have been covered in 24 pages into 4 or 5 issues. And one of the reasons they do this is by encouraging the artists to do a lot of full-page illustrations. When do you use a full-page illustration? You use it when the illustration is spectacular. Not always when it advances the story, but it's a bonus if it advances the story. And I'm going to show you an example of one. This is from the Philbach Brothers' Gooble Gobble, their latest book from First Comics. It's a masterpiece. It's a masterpiece. It's the greatest thing they've ever done. It's a psychedelic trip. And when I say psychedelic, I mean psychedelic. And the Philbach brothers are sui generis. They don't look like anyone else. They follow their own muse. And they're not at all reluctant about using however many panels per page they feel like. And because of this, the story has a pulse and a rhythm as it expands for the full page, and then it shrinks for for 10 or more panels. And that's like when you're listening to a drum solo and the musicians fall out and leave the drummer to do that solo and he's going crazy. That's like that page with 10 or 12 panels. I think it's somebody like Art Blakey, one of the great drummers. But when then the whole ensemble comes in and they're working together, that's your full page illustration. Others might make a different connection between that, but that's the way I see it. And I've always said that a good story shares the same characteristics as a good song, in that you have the tonic, the bridge, and the hook. The tonic is the main story. The bridge is the complications or the challenges that the protagonist encounters, and the hook is the resolution that brings the story back onto an even keel. Now, I recently released Bronze Star with Pat Broderick. It came about because I said, Pat, what do you want to draw? He said, I want to draw a supernatural Western. Now, Pat Broderick is one of the mainstays of comics. He's been around for years. He drew Alpha Flight, Legion of Superheroes, Captain Atom, Green Lantern, Batman, Micronauts, among many others. But when he got a chance to do a story that was his métier, that he suggested, the thing he most wanted to draw, he produced the greatest work of his career. This book is fairly new, but everybody who's seen it has had their mind blown. Now, this is an oversized black and white artist edition, which we made for obvious reasons, because his line art is exquisite, and the chance to savor it in black and white is something all comics aficionados would value. Pat did something that no other artist has ever done when working with me, is he added panels to a page, and in fact making more work for himself. Here's a 13-panel page on the left. A 13-panel page. Now, the regular edition, which is in full color and is magnificent just as well, is smaller than this. It's standard comic size. It's this size.
Okay.
But we did the black and white version because his art demanded it. And you can see when Pat illustrates a panel, he just doesn't put in the characters in the foreground. He doesn't just feature the action. He features the background. He features the landscape going all the way back to the horizon.
Mm-hmm.
It's just astonishing. And the reaction has been very gratifying. Pat is hard at work on the second issue. I can't wait to get it out. It continues the theme of a supernatural Western. So I hope this gives you, I have another comment or two, is when do you use a full page spread? You use a full page spread when it's a big reveal. And the first example I always think of is an ancient civilization discovered in the jungle. And when you look down on that, as drawn by great artists like Carl Barks, for example, a magic happens between the paper and the eye that doesn't occur in any other medium, certainly not online, where you enter into that scene and the barrier of artifice that's there, because it's just ink on paper, disappears, and you're living in that scene. There's also the big reveal, and my classic example of that is Swamp Thing, drawn by Bernie Wrightson, the werewolf issue. You turn the page, and there's a full-page splash of the werewolf. It's one of the greatest werewolves ever drawn. However, in my estimation, a page like that stops the reader cold and stops the story to a certain degree. I very rarely devote a full page to a single image. When I do, it's something big. It doesn't focus right in on a head. You know, we've all seen a full page devoted to a single head spewing 500 words of nonsense in 33 word balloons, and it's just it's a turn off. The eyes glaze over, and you say, this is too much like work. So for a comic to work, it has its own pace and rhythm, and you have to be able to keep up with that. One of the things that enables you to keep up with that is using your words sparingly, and I've touched on that before. But I will devote the top 2/3 of a page to a really big image, and then the bottom third, I continue the story so that the reader wants to know what happens next and turns the page. And by the way, if you've seen one explosion, you've seen them all.
Okay, we're going to do a quick little pan of all of our dogs. So this is Mac, our older girl, Freddie, and then Bob, who we do the words from Bob.
Bob, the source of wisdom.
Yeah, the couch is kind of a mess. We tried to straighten it up, but the dogs, well, you have dogs. If you have dogs or pets, you understand. You're just not going to have house beautiful. All right, Mike, so we're trying to keep on track with the Tuesday videos. And then please subscribe, like, and comment. And appreciate you watching. Thanks so much, everyone. Have a great day.